Hello to everyone in the internet, and you are watching The Young Globalist. Alright everybody, how have you been? You ready for November 7th's news? Alright. So, Republican candidate Dennis Hoff has apparently won the vote in Nevada. Yep, Dennis Hoff wins the vote in Nevada. In spite of being, kinda dead. Yeah, that's right. A dead Republican wins the state of Nevada. And I'm just wondering how the hell that happened. Well, somehow he was running and then, died in his sleep and then still managed to get more votes to the point where he ended up getting 68%. 68% after, like, post-mortem. That's the craziest thing ever, right? It's certainly unusual. Well, apparently the news of his death did not spread fast enough to prevent people from voting. They just kept going, thinking he was still alive, I guess. It's funny, the guy actually owned a few brothels as well as managed several prostitutes, and yet somehow was backed by evangelical Christians. Weird, right? Everything about this is just so strange. The man himself, before he died, said that just about everyone will compromise their values temporarily just for the sake of having an honest politician. Claiming himself to be something of a mini-Trump. Saying that his fortune and lifestyle mimicked Trump. Calling himself the Trump of Durham. The Trump of Durham. Because that's where he was from, a little place called Durham. No, Trump was not nearly as sleazy as this guy. Oh yeah, and still alive. So there's that too. Let's see, Mr. Hoff's likely cause of death, I think. Well, like they said, he died in his sleep. You can... excuse me. You can have heart attacks while you sleep. It's also possible that he was immune compromised. There's several other, immune compromised while sleeping. Although he didn't show any signs of that. He could have had a fatal STD. I don't know. I don't know enough about STDs. Maybe I shouldn't make claims like that. But I would say that a heart attack while he slept was probably the most likely cause of death. Because, your heart's still going, and you can have a heart attack at any time. Your heart's still going while you're asleep, albeit much slower. The speed at which it's beating doesn't really have an effect on whether or not you can have an attack or not. So that really doesn't matter. So yeah, a dead Republican who was kind of a sleazeball somehow wins Nevada. And then, of course, the Republicans say they will replace the candidate ASAP. What are they going to do? Restart the race? Or just automatically award it to their new candidate? I guess we'll find out when more news comes in on that. Moving on. So, the Democrats have successfully taken the House of Representatives. They've successfully retaken the House for the first time in 8 years, and the Republicans have retained the Senate. Now, a Democratic House of Representatives will obviously try to screw Trump for sure. They're obviously going to try to investigate him. There are folks trying to say that they shouldn't. They should avoid investigating and just focus on legislation. But they're not going to do that. The way the Democrats have been acting since Trump's election, they're going to keep it up. They're going to try to investigate Trump. They're going to pursue it. They're basically going to be huge dicks about it. They'll probably start another probe, like the Mueller probe. And they might even take this one much longer than the last one. And they're not going to let him fund the wall. They're going to keep Trump from getting what he wants. They're going to hold him back deliberately. They're the House of Representatives. They can do that. Now, the Republican Senate, on the other hand, that's probably going to have have a very positive effect on state spending overall, because what defines Republicans is that they're conservatives. There's pretty much almost no such thing as a liberal Republican, which means spending on the state level will be nice and moderate to low. We can expect taxes to raise a little bit, but not as much as it would be if it was Democrats. We can expect a little minor increase in taxes, but a decrease in spending. So, you know, typical Republican stuff, I imagine. State spending will improve, which is all good. Good old Republicans. Always demanding more taxes, but somehow managing to not spend any of it. And as for Trump himself, he could potentially still get his way with the Democratic House of Reps if he learns to compromise. Maybe if he compromises on some of his ideas, they might be willing to capitulate. Or alternatively, if he maybe sneaks his measures in there, not in like in a totally deceptive way, but maybe in a way that like sugarcoats it so they don't, overreact to it and react to it badly. Something to make it sound all nice it up so they'll be more willing. He could still get his way, I think. He's a crafty guy, Trump. He'll find a way to get his wall. A fully Democratic House of Representatives is not likely to dampen his spirit. If anything, it'll motivate him to work that much harder. He'll look for a way, and he may very well find it. As for the future of the Democratic Party, the way they've been behaving, they've been losing votes. I've been asking folks, myself, the people who watch the Young Globalists and Culture Shock, to starve the beast and vote either Republican or Libertarian. Basically, I've just been telling people to do what they've already been doing. The Democratic Party, that from what I can see anyway, is coming apart at the seams. Mind you, having the House of Representatives is probably going to keep them around for a little while longer. Well, the way they've been acting and the way they've been weaponizing the far left and using them, and just general people walking away and, it's basically saying fuck the Democrats. I don't see the Democratic Party resuming. I think it's going to fall apart and be replaced by a new liberal party. Hopefully something that understands the working class and is not a piece of shit. And as to the future of the Republican Party, well, they refuse to be the Trump Party, the party of Donald Trump. They don't want him to be representative of who and what they are, which I'd say is rather foolish on their part, because Trump right now he's a major socio-political force, and to deny him as representative of your party, I think, is very foolish. It's like, sure, he says things that are controversial, he's a jackass, but you know what? You find me a politician that isn't a jackass, at least to some extent, and I'll capitulate to the idea of the Republicans not wanting to be represented by Trump. The future of the Republican Party, I think, is a future of controversy. After someone like Trump, they'll never be looked at the same again. His image will have affected the Republican Party to the point where I think they'll either have to have someone else like Trump, or someone who's squeaky clean and the opposite of Trump. There will be no compromise. They will have to make a major shift after his departure from office, whether he goes for a second term or not. Moving on. Midterm election results have had a positive effect on the Asian stock market. Yes, we do indeed sometimes have a pretty positive effect on other countries, and other continents even. I mean, we're a big country. We're on the world stage. We make shit happen. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. Oh, this isn't teamwork, but, you know, maybe it is to some extent. But still, U.S. investments are on the way. They'll start investing in United States stock. You know, if I were Trump, I'd get on top of this immediately. You know, because he's a businessman, a business president. Like, he's talking about putting America first and bringing our American companies back to America. Well, if we're helping to improve Asia's stock market and they're going to start investing in us, then this is a good time to rebuild our infrastructure and improve our financial infrastructure. You know, I'm not saying we'll ever get back to like the infrastructure of the late 50s through the 60s. We'll probably never have that again. But if we can improve our infrastructure by taking advantage of the effect we've had on the Asian stock market, get some investments into our companies and bring them back home, bring U.S. jobs here, and the fact that we still have a record number of jobs available, Trump has done so much for this country's infrastructure. I would gladly, in spite of being a libertarian, not a Republican, I would gladly vote for Trump again, hoping that he gets a second term with what he's done for our country's infrastructure. Thanks to us, in part, not entirely, but in part, the various companies within the Asian stock market, within Asian stock, have had nominal increases, with as much as a 1.8% gain all around. Some have dropped by as much as 22%, but that's due to where they invested. Companies that have invested in the United States have improved, and those that have not have dropped. As it turns out, investing in America is a good move, at least for now, especially with our infrastructure being what it is under Trump. One of those 1.8 percenters was Nintendo. They saw that gain most strongly. They were one of the first to see that gain happen, so, you know, hooray for Super Mario and Donkey Kong and all them. Yep. Oh yes, invest in America, Asians. Invest in America. We're doing good. We'll make you money and you'll make us money and we'll all be happy. Teamwork makes the dream work. Moving on. Sorry, that was a download. You heard that little ding? Sarah Huckabee Sanders was talking about how House Democrats should avoid investigating Trump and instead focus on legislation. Now, I said that as well just a few minutes ago. Maybe where I got the idea from reading about her comments. And I agree. I'm not sure what Sarah Huckabee Sanders' alignment really is anymore. It's like other times it's appeared somewhat Democratic and other times it's appeared somewhat Republican. But I believe she's absolutely right. They would be idiots to weaponize the House of Representatives against Trump, as if this country wasn't divided enough by the Democrats' behavior. Oh yes, the cold Civil War we're in right now. The Democrats created it. They started it. It's their fault. People need to realize that. That's why I'm telling you, starve the beast. Vote red. Moving on. So Ted Cruz actually retained Texas in spite of a very strong campaign by Beto O'Rourke. I'd imagine that Ted Cruz won very narrowly. The margin of success was pretty small. I mean, like I said before, he's kind of a pussy. But somehow he won, mostly because I think people realized that Beto O'Rourke was not a good choice. Texas managed to stay red. And it's looking like that blue wave is going to be more like a blue splash. A little itty-bitty splash, maybe a couple drops. Oh no, we are not going Democratic. We're still Republican. This is a Republican-run country, and we're doing good as a result. Democrats make mobs, Republicans make jobs. Absolutely. There will be no blue wave, there will be a red wave, maybe even a red typhoon. The best thing the Dems got going for right now is that House of Representatives win. And in the final bit of news for the Young Globalist today, Motel 6 is paying $7.6 million to immigrants who are facing lawsuits for their illegal entry into this country. And they're citing a violation of their own privacy policy after having to provide guest lists to ICE, so the ICE can find the illegal immigrants and force them out. Yeah, sounds to me like Motel 6 is straight up complacent now. Absolutely complacent with the migrant madness. Now here's the thing. There's a difference between a migrant and an immigrant. An immigrant is someone who moves from one country to another, stays and works for a time, because there's no jobs back home, and then goes back home with the money they made. Whereas a migrant is someone who's literally migrating and then staying. Now, I have nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with that so long as they do it legally and in small numbers. But if you recall this migrant army recently, this huge number of people, and I've already said that our border is now being reinforced with soldiers and guns and even some helicopters and barbed wire. We're taking this pretty seriously. They're not making it in. They're certainly not getting to use Motel 6, and they're paying out $7.6 million. Obviously, they're being run by some kind of democratically aligned CEO of their company, who obviously made that decision. Or no, that wouldn't be CEO. That would be a CFO, a Chief Financial Officer, a Vice President. Although they would still need the CEO's permission to go ahead. Anyway, folks. Tschüss.